You know, when it comes to romantic ships in all kinds of media, whether it's mangas, comics, anime, Western, European, Latin, Russian animation, what have you, Australian animation, Asian animation, whether it's live action, whether it's video games, what have you. It seems that romantic ships are always going to be abound or teased. When it comes to some of the things I know of, along with many fans out there, many millions of fans out there, when it comes to some of the things that I'm a fan of, the obvious romantic ships that are teased, if not confirmed, are pretty much there from the get-go. When it comes from a teasing perspective, you look at shows like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and to me, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions, the evidence of a Dale and Gadget ship is there. And I'm not counting the live-action hybrid animation Roger Rabbit parody movie, whatever, the thing that they did with the Lonely Island Boys a couple years ago. I'm not counting that. That meta one, if you will. I'm not counting that. But what I'm counting mostly is the original animated series. And like I said, there's just so much evidence, too many moments to count, with Dale and Gadget being affectionate towards each other. Gadget more so with him, and sometimes vice versa, and Gadget being supportive of him, and vice versa. Basically, there's just too much evidence to say otherwise, that in my opinion, that was potentially the direction Disney was going to go. Tad Stones and his crew were going to go with the Rescue Rangers back then. And yes, they did have their Chip and Gadget moments, don't get me wrong. They did have those. And yes, they did try to pair off Chip with somebody else like Tammy, and then later on Dale with Foxglove. There's no doubt. But again, outside of those, potential, shippings and romances, one that actually carried over into the soft continuation and Boom, by Boom Studios as an on and off relationship, with those being the exception, the evidence to me was just too strongly, probable, in my opinion, strongly probable of being legit. Because, again, too many moments. Now, it isn't the only show. You look at Tailspin, and almost from the get-go with Tailspin, this show coming out a year later, the thing with Baloo and Rebecca was just evident from the beginning. It really was. And that relationship was based off the whole, Sam Malone, Rebecca Donaldson relationship in Cheers. And again, because it was based and inspired by that, it was obvious almost from the get-go that these two were going to end up together, or at least, leave you with that satisfying feeling that even though you didn't see it potentially happen on screen, you can pretty much say, yeah, this was a thing. This became a thing. These two became an item. And a lot of episodes indicate that, with their moments. Even one episode, A Star is Torn, which I did a review on, pretty much points that out as well very strongly. But it's not the only one. Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. Sonic Satiem and Archie Sonic, Sonic and Sally. I mean, it's evident from the get-go that there's something between them, not just in the comics, but in the cartoon, and it's pretty much confirmed both ways. At the end of Doomsday, as well as throughout the comic. It was very evident. The only reason they, went away with it, went away with it, kind of put it on the shelf during the soft reboot and retcon, is because of the fact that, as Ian Flynn put it, quote unquote, there were mandates, but also the reality, and he's even admitted it, is he got sick and tired of fans just not accepting one ship over the other because they wanted Sonic and Amy instead of Sonic and Sally, and vice versa. So that's why that was put on the shelf. But even during the soft reboot and retcon, you put, he basically, and he said it himself, him and his wife, they worked on Spark of Life, the Sonic Universe miniseries, which was very Nicole Central focused. They worked on that, And they pretty much admitted, Ian admitted, I should say, more so than anything, that they were surprised with what they were able to get away with when it came to pretty much the interactions between Nicole and Sally. Because pretty much what they were kind of hinting at in Spark of Life, more so than anything during the soft reboot retcon, was pretty much Nicole and Sally being more than just BFFs, if you kind of see what I'm saying. But even then, they teased it, or they teased something romantically. Sonic, on the other hand, yeah, you could do something with him and Sally, as once here and there, and they did, and somewhat with Amy. But the truth be told, they just left Sonic to his own devices. That's what they did. Truth be told. But then you get to the IDW one, and it's like, take your pick of who you'd want to ship Sonic with or tease him with. And pretty much there's a whole peripheral of female characters they tease him with. One of the most evident, of course, is Blaze. I mean, the fact that he took on this little guided tour during her quote-unquote vacation from her world, and what's one of the scenes we see in a panel in one of the issues, while they're standing on top of a clock. Basically a Big Ben-like tower, if you will. What's one of the things we see him do? He grabs her hand, he's holding her hand, and she's blushing. Teasing right there, even though they don't go through with it, teasing some kind of attraction between the two. But it's not just Blaze. You also have Amy. Yes, they're going to do that, and it's been evident. But also, believe it or not, they've teased him and Tangle. And to an extent, even briefly, him and Lanolin. Not so much with Whisper, although there might have been a moment here and there, but outside of Blaze and Amy, you had Tangle and Lanolin, which was pretty much a surprise. And they would always focus, believe it or not, they would have a page focus, or not page, but have a panel on a comic page focused on Sonic holding their hand. It's like to say, here, this is the closest you're going to get to a shipping, or to a ship between these two. But then speaking of Tangle, it's pretty much out there in the forefront, and you can't tell me they're not aware of it, her and Whisper. It has been more evident throughout time, especially with a more recent issue. So what I'm getting at is you have a lot of media out there, from anime, manga, Western animation, international animation, comic books, web comics, video games, live action, to where a lot of kind of ships that are potentially on the verge of becoming reality are teased, and that's all they're left to be. Even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, yeah, they got a couple of ships right too, don't get me wrong. Sugar Belle and Big Mac, that fans didn't see that coming, but when it happened, they were all for it. But ones that, had that romantic tension but never went anywhere, fans to this day are always hoping for some kind of, proof that it's official, that it's a thing. I mean, for example, Spike and Rarity, from the get-go, has been something that fans have been wanting to see, whether they were supportive of it or not. But if you were to basically compare the fan base when it comes to that divide-wise, those that are for it outnumber those that are against it. But anyway, we never truly got an answer towards that, except, in Best Gift Ever and throughout the majority of Season 9. But still, we didn't get any close official indication that they were more than friends. It was left to our own, open-ended interpretations, our own open-ended speculations, if you know what I mean. And a lot of us pretty much felt that, yeah, they did get together, they just never showed it because they didn't want to destroy the dynamic of what the show was. And the same with Fluttershy and Discord. Even though the ending, of the series in Last Problem, or at least there's a moment in Last Problem and everything, before, not before, but during, as Twilight telling her pupil, Lester Dawn, about her day of coronation and all that, and we see the characters show up, and then pretty much one of them that shows up is Fluttershy, of course, but she shows up via portal thanks to Discord, and he hands her a bag like it's her lunch, and it's like, what more evidence do you need? What more evidence do you need? And then you have that one that one episode called She Talks to Angel, where both her and Angel pretty much switch bodies. And what happens? Angel, through her, says, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to marry Discord, da-da-da. You know, you basically got, you know, teases here and there of that ship. You have teases here and there of that ship, and it's like, why not officially go through with it? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And if that's not all, you have fans looking at moments between Starlight and Spike and like, why not just do that too? Or Starlight and what's the name? Starlight and Sunburst, or Starlight and Trixie, and it's like, why not make it official? Why not go where you know you want to go? Why not do it? And here's the thing, they don't. They just tease it and leave it open-ended for us fans to figure out and speculate on our own. The only main cast romance that went all the way through, believe it or not, was with the season 8 character, with the new characters introduced in season 8 of the Student 6, and that was between Yona and Sandbar. That was the only one main cast-wise, or secondary main cast-wise, that became reality. You gotta get what I'm saying, folks? You get what I'm saying? You know, a lot of romance teases, ships, I should say, were teased but never fully, you know, fleshed out, never fully realized. They never were. And even in anime, you get that as well. Even in anime, you get that as well. Even though the evidence is there. I mean, you look at one of my personal favorite animes and mangas, Yu-Gi-Oh, the OG one, not you know, season 0 or anything like that, but I'm talking afterwards. You take a look at that between Yu-Gi-Oh and Taya, you know, and it's like it's just too evidential. It's too evidential that they were going to be an item, and you even have reports and confirmations apparently in future Yu-Gi-Oh spin-offs that, yeah, they got married. And it's like, well, if they got married, then why didn't you just come out and let us know it was made official? Why didn't you just come out and have the moment, you know, right there in front of everybody? Why? Why do that? I mean, you tease us with the fact that Taya's more, you know, attractive to the Pharaoh side that comes out of Yugi, that she's more attracted to that than Yugi himself. But it isn't until throughout the whole Waking the Dragons and then the final duel between Yugi and Atem that she realizes that the one she's actually for or wanting to be with is Yugi. And then, like I said, you have all this confirmation and stuff that they ended up married and stuff. It's like, well, why didn't you let us see that? Why didn't you let us see that? And then if that's not enough, you have Joey Wheeler and My Valentine. I mean, the interactions between these two, if that's not enough evidence that they were going to end up as an item, I don't know what does. And then you have a character, what was it, in GX and in Zexol or whatever it was, that looked like a hybrid of both, and people pretty much speculate that that's their daughter. You know? It's like the moment, it's like the opportunities were there and you didn't go through with it. You know? It's like the opportunities were there, you just didn't go through with it. And then if that's not enough, you have, speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, let's go to GX. Jaden and Alexis, if you will. You know, Jaden and Alexis Rhodes. Alexis Rhodes, if you will. Jaden and Alexis Rhodes. I mean, the evidence is there. It was pretty much there from the get-go. You know, and yeah, she's made her return recently, according to some people, and other spin-offs and all that had a connection with GX, but still, it's like Jaden and her were pretty much confirmation. Why not go all the way through with it? The only one they ever truly went all the way through, depending on which version you read or watched, excuse me, pretty much the only one that I know of that they've gone through fully with, whether you read the manga or watched the anime, is from 5Ds. Yeah, from 5Ds. And it's Yusei and Akiza. Yusei and Akiza is the only one I think they actually went through on screen and pretty much said, yeah, these two are an item. I don't know about the other Yu-Gi-Oh shows. I haven't paid attention to those. But, pretty much to me, Akiza and Yusei were the only ones from 5Ds that were pretty much confirmed. They were pretty much confirmed. And if that's not all, how about another anime? How about, I don't know, Digimon? Digimon pretty much had Tai, and I can't think of the other girl as well, that, pretty much, were like BFFs. They were best friends, very close. And yet, instead of them being together, you ended up having her be with somebody else. You end up having her be with his best friend. And he ends up with some... it's like, are you crazy? Thankfully, I'm hoping they've rectified that. They've rectified that and everything. It's like... It's almost like, to me, you have the opportunities there to go all the way through, yet you don't. And when you do finally decide to commit to them being with somebody, it's not who they're supposed to be with. You get what I'm saying? It just feels like if you have the opportunity, go with it. Go for it, in my opinion. Just go for it. It's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. And it's not just Digimon either. You have Pokemon that teased it with Ash and Misty. I mean, come on. You brought her back a couple of times. Why not just go all the way through with Ash and her being an item? Or, heck, you bring in Dawn to be, a best friend, a partner for him. Why not just make, put him and Dawn together? To me, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense why you take an opportunity and not run with it. And instead you leave it open-ended to people like me and others that support your works, that support the show, that want to see this happen. You just don't go all the way through with it. And some of the most popular animes of all time go, whether, romance is a thing they should go through with or not. They will make it happen. Some of the most notable have done it, outside of the ones I've mentioned. Dragon Ball Z has done it with Goku and some of his fellow guys, like Pico or Lico, whatever his name is, the one that fell in love with Android 18. They have Goku, though, that, got a wife, fell in love with a character. You have somebody else that fell in love with Bulma, if you will. It's basically like if it's there, then why not make it happen? I don't get it. I don't get it. Even that one anime. I'm trying to think of the name. It's the Inchuo, not Inchuo, but Inchua. I'm trying to think of the name. It's Inshara or something like that. It's basically the demon wolf guy with the white hair, and he's with this one girl. Even they went all the way through with it, and they had a kid, which, by the way, they did a spin-off series for. Yeah, they did a spin-off series for. And if that's not all, how about Naruto, if you will? Everybody wanted him and Sakura, but you ended up giving him, what's the blind girl's name? I think it's the blind girl. I can't think of her name right now. You gave him her, and that's fine. That's okay. That's obvious. Fans wanted that too. But the one on top of that was Sakura. They wanted him and Sakura. You didn't do it, and instead you gave him the other girl. And again, that's fine. They wanted that too. Once they saw the dynamic and the story between them, they're like, hey, that works better than him and Sakura. And Sakura ended up with another main member of the cast anyway. So again, it worked out. But still, the one fans wanted to see the most become reality was Natsuru and Sakura. The reason I bring this up, and I know it's taken me a long time to get to this, is this one anime that has been running for 1,140 episodes. 1,140 episodes. 1,140 episodes. And that's One Piece. And probably the most sought after ship that fans have been wanting to see is Luffy and Nami. And And no matter how much the creator, Odin, I think that's his name, Odin, will come out and deny it, there's too much evidence in the manga and in this long-running anime series to say otherwise. There's too much evidence. I mean, there's a scene, somebody posted this on Facebook. There is a scene where Nami is waking up on some kind of thing, she's stressed and all that, and it's like she's come to the realization she's got to tell Luffy. She's got to tell him something. And basically it's hinting that she wants to tell him she loves him. Not that, he's her bestest friend in the whole world, but that she loves him. And it's an indication, and obviously, from what I understand, recently there's been indication that he's feeling the same way about her. But we haven't got no confirmation. And despite what Gemini will say, Google's AI, they're wrong, because apparently there's now something going on, even though, again, there's no confirmation. There's apparently now something going on to probably rectify the one thing fans have been wanting to see. I mean, listen to this, okay? I did a video where I talked about Chopper and Nico Robin's relationship. And I said, basically along the lines of what would it be like if those two ended up together, or it seemed like they were building towards it. People would tell me that's not going to happen because they're more like mother and son, or big brother, big sister. Well, not little brother, big sister, I should say. But there's just so much evidence, there's so much evidence in One Piece with Nico and Chopper to say otherwise. This is too much evidence. No matter what version of Robin we get, because apparently there's two versions of Robin that are the same person, two designs anyway, that pretty much got changed during some kind of storm or whatever, but it's still the same person. But I'm just saying. The point I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is that a lot of people do agree with me, whether they want to admit it or not, that the way they always position Nico and Chopper, it's almost like, they want to put them together, because one of the abilities that Chopper has is he can grow to giant size, and be a force to be reckoned with, grown-up size, if you will. So it's like, when you factor that in, it's almost like people are like, yeah, why not just do it? But they don't, because it's an interesting kind of dynamic to where, yeah, you could, but no, you can't. Yeah, you could, no, you can't. But on the other hand, you have Nami and Luffy. And like I said, even though there's been nothing confirmed, it's just been too strong of evidence in the manga and the anime, from what I understand, of the fact that those two are going to potentially end up together, despite what the Odin, the creator of anime, I think he's one of the creators, pretty much says. But again, as I mentioned, now apparently, according to some rumors, speculation, they might be rectifying that. And if they are, thank goodness. Because even though I don't watch One Piece that much, I do have One Piece Gold, one of the movies they put out. Even though I don't watch One Piece that much, I do pay attention enough to have an understanding of who the characters are, what they're about, and where they are, and where they are storyline-wise. And to me, it's like, when you look at characters like Nami and Luffy, it's obvious, even if you're new to One Piece, and you're trying all your best to research and, catch up on it, it's very evident from the get-go that these two are going to be together. It's just too visually prominent not to indicate that. It's too visually prominent not to indicate that. So again, why not go all the way? And again, I think the reason is because, one, it's not just the creator of One Piece that doesn't want to do it, but it's also to keep it open-ended. So that way, if One Piece does finally come to an end, which one day it will, but if it does, but when that day comes, they want to keep it open-ended, or at least that's the plan as of right now, keep it open-ended so that you could speculate in your mind exactly what happens next. You can speculate in your mind exactly what happens next. But apparently, even though it's just a speculated rumor, not officially confirmed, but there's a lot of smoke to the fire. Apparently, it looks like they are going to rectify that in some manner to at least indicate that it is an attraction between the two that could lead to them probably just going on dates and all that, but not fully being committed because of who they are, of their commitment as pirates, and all that. So yeah, it's just one of those situations to where, again, if you have the opportunity in front of you, go for it. Just make it happen. And that's all I can really say. That's all I can really say. That, if you have that opportunity, make it happen. In my opinion, you have that opportunity, make it happen. Don't waste it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And if there's any truth to Nami and Luffy finally ending up together, then better late than never. But again, don't waste it. And also don't try to, work around it by putting the said character with another character. Keep it to what fans want, because fans are your bosses. Fans are the ones that pay your bills with what they spend on the mangas, the comics, and the streaming services that air your stuff. So to me, the best thing to do is listen to the fans and give them what they want. If they want a certain romantic ship to happen, you make it happen. If they're going to point out that there's too much evidence in one show, to basically say, oh, that's never going to happen, you make it happen, because guess what? Too much evidence gets thrown in your face. So, long story short, guys, I look at it this way. Yeah, it might be, it might have been basically too long of a wait for it to finally happen, but if it's happening, good. But better, as the old saying goes, better late than never, right? But like I said, you have the opportunity in front of you. Just make it happen. Make it happen, get it over with, and just move on from there, because you'll live with the satisfaction of knowing, hey, you gave the fans what they want, and they're going to want more. They're going to want to see more of what happens now based on how you work around this, or if you just make it happen, but then still go back to the normal pace that you used to. But like I said, you have an opportunity, don't squander it, in my opinion. But that's all I'm going to say, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Also, share the video, and also, guys, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, as well as click on the last link at the bottom of the description box to go to my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and until then, I am out.